welcome back to day 2 of the B2B lead funnel framework. I'm so excited that you are here with us. We're going to go through the planning phase and we're starting with goals. Why are goals important, Paul?
Obviously, we have to have goals. If we're going to ever get to anything or accomplish anything, we kind of need to know where we're trying to go. And that's why the planning phase really is the first phase of the process. And what we're going to do today is really kind of talk about planning, but really get into the goals. What are those key metrics that are going to show you that you're heading in the right direction and that you're actually arriving at your destination? And there are some real common mistakes that businesses make when planning, and I just want to walk you through those real quick. You know, one of the first challenges that businesses make is what I call the spaghetti against the wall approach, where it's like, hey, there's a new shiny trinket, there's a new, this new tactic, TikTok or MySpace, or gosh, I really just dated myself on that one. But, it's not going after every shiny object and giving it a try, because that's kind of like throwing spaghetti against the wall and hoping that something sticks. And so I see that all the time. Another challenge that we run into a lot is this disconnected tactics with business objectives. And so marketing's kind of living in this silo, and they're trying different marketing tactics, hoping to generate some real value, but they're really not connected to what the business is trying to achieve. And so in the planning phase, we really need to connect, where is this business trying to grow, and how is marketing going to help us get there? And so we don't want to have disconnected business or disconnected tactics and business objectives. We also don't want to have a lack of process. And one thing that you've probably seen through the framework so far is we're going to give you a ton of process. And if you implement this the right way, you're going to get the results that you're looking for. And then the final issue that we have is just lack of alignment with what the customers need. So not only when we're planning, are we trying to plan on how do I get my company to where it needs to go? When we're planning, we also need to plan on how do we help our customer get to where they want to go. And it's when we connect those two things together that we really have a rock solid digital marketing plan.
That's right, because without planning, that equals waste. And this needs to be implemented correctly. I want to touch on something that you said, because all the stuff that we're giving you has to be implemented correctly, or you're going to fail.
Right. And we don't want waste. I mean, that's one of the challenges why, when we try to do things and we don't get positive results, one of the reasons that we're not getting the positive results is that we're spending time, energy, and resources on things that aren't going to get us the results that we're looking for, and that's waste. And so that's why you need to spend time really planning and getting the plan right, because that's going to help you down the road. So let's talk a little bit about what good planning looks like.
So good planning creates efficiency. You want to make sure that you stay on task and that you're efficient doing so. It also eliminates waste, which we just talked about a few minutes ago, and it allows for management by exception. So everything could be going along smoothly, but you have a bump in the road. It allows you to manage that particular item by exception rather than managing the whole process. And it produces better and faster results.
We all want better and faster results,
absolutely.
Right, Lisa? Yeah, absolutely. So really what we're trying to say here is that we all need to be smart in the way that we invest our resources, time, energy, and money. And so let's talk a little bit about, these goals and KPIs that really matter for your business. And, goals are all about what is your destination, right? If I went to Lisa and I said, hey, Lisa, where's the closest Starbucks? And Lisa said, north. Well, she's probably right. I bet there is a Starbucks north of here, but it's really not going to help me get to that Starbucks, right? I need to know that pathway that's going to ultimately get there, that map, if you will. And so we really need to understand the destination. And then the KPIs, the key performance indicators, really are that map that are going to show us that we're heading in the right direction. So let's take a look at really what are the goals that matter for your business. And let's start here at the top. The first thing that we really need to understand is what is our new client acquisition goal? And so this lead funnel framework is actually going to produce new clients for you. And so you need to figure out, well, how many new clients do I want this lead funnel framework to produce for my business? It truly is beginning with the end in mind. The next thing that we need to do is understand the number of marketing qualified leads and what we're willing to pay for a marketing qualified lead. Now, a marketing qualified lead in our framework simply means somebody that has opted into something on your website, but somebody in marketing has vetted that lead and really communicated this is the right kind of company, it's the right size of company, it's somebody that we'd like to do business with. Now, in our framework, those marketing qualified leads will ultimately become sales qualified leads because they've kind of risen their hand and said, I'm ready to talk to a sales guy. Our framework, and Lisa's favorite part is that fourth phase of our framework where we talk about nurturing relationships. That's where you're going to learn how to go from a marketing qualified lead to a sales qualified lead. And then the final point right here is cost per acquisition. We really have to understand what are we willing to pay for a customer, because we don't want to spend $1 million in marketing to produce $500,000 in revenue. So we got to figure that out, and that's what we're going to walk through today. Okay, so let's take a look at the key performance indicators that really matter. And right here at the top of the list is traffic from the lead funnel. Traffic really drives everything else, right, Lisa?
Right, and then you want the cost per impression, the CPM. Ideally, you'd like that to be around $25.
Right, $25 or less. And every business is going to be different, but we're trying to give you some benchmarks, a starting place, right? And you'll be working with that in the resource we'll be sharing with you here in a little bit. Obviously, the next thing down, now that we've got our traffic and our cost per impression, is the click-through rate. And we want our click-through rate to be somewhere between 1 and 2% as a starting point.
And the last thing is the cost per click. And this is really going to just depend on your individual business. So that's going to vary from business to business.
Right, absolutely. The next one on the list here is our MQL conversion rates. We talked about what marketing qualified leads are. We just need to have a good understanding of what a percentage would be that we would want our traffic to convert into an MQL. And a good starting point would be 3 to 5%.
The next thing we want to go through is sales qualified leads, SQLs, and their conversion rate. You're going to want somewhere between 10 and 30%. That's going to be a benchmark average.
Yep, and then time on site. So this is how much time, you're driving people to your website through the lead funnel framework, and you want them to spend about 2 minutes or more on your website. So if they're spending less than 2 minutes, that's an indicator that you're not heading in the right direction.
And last is the bounce rate. You're going to want to make sure that your bounce rate is actually less than 40%.
Yep, absolutely. So let's dig into some really fun stuff, and we're going to have to walk back into really what are those goals that we're looking for, and the way that we recommend that we do that is through a top-down analysis. And the very first part of that is just coming up with how much revenue do we want the lead funnel framework to produce for your business. And ultimately what we're going to do is back into the number of customers that we need the lead funnel framework to produce. And so we start with revenue. Then the next thing we need to look at is average customer value. And now once we have those two pieces of information, we can actually back into that number. So let's take a look at the math here. So it starts with, new revenue that we want to produce, and we want to divide that by our average customer value. And when you do those two things, you're going to ultimately back into the number of new customers. So for example, let's say you wanted the lead funnel framework to produce $1 million worth of revenue for your business, and the average customer was $1,000 per customer, then you need 1,000 customers. It really is that simple, isn't it, Lisa?
So Paul, help me understand this one more time, because I think this is so important, and so many businesses don't do this step right here. So tell me again.
Okay, so, and that it really is true. It's amazing how you're going to try to build a plan, but you don't start with the end in mind. And so that's what we're trying to accomplish here. Total dollars of revenue that you want to produce through the lead funnel. You divide that by the average customer value, and that's going to ultimately give you the number of customers that you're looking for. And so that's the first part of the process, is really understanding how many customers. Now we need to understand how many customers, what are we willing to pay for those customers? And so there's two ways to go about determining your cost per acquisition. The first is historical. And so historical just simply means how much money did you spend last year on marketing, and how many new customers came from that investment? That's your historical cost per acquisition. And at least I think they're going to laugh at the second way to do this. I call it the pick one way, right? You kind of pull a number out of the air and you say, hey, this is what we're going to strive for, because maybe last year, we weren't happy with that cost per acquisition. And so let's pick a number that makes sense. And as a percentage, we kind of recommend 10 to 30% might be a good number that you could pick. So it really is that simple, isn't it, Lisa?
Well, and you could also take some of your historical data and average it out to come up with a number as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. So you could say, hey, last year our cost per acquisition was 40%. Boy, that was way too high. Let's see if we can cut that in half and make it 20%,
right,
which would be basically the same as picking one. And so the tool that we're about to walk you through is going to make this super easy for you. I'm really excited to share with you how this tool works. So Lisa, you want to walk us through that?
So yesterday we told you about this nifty little tool that you're going to get you the numbers that Paul just talked about. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to download this worksheet. And then these numbers in orange are the numbers that you're going to input. The numbers that are in green are what we recommend, business average or industry average, but you could certainly adjust those as needed. And the numbers that are going to be in this peachy color right here is going to give you everything you need to fill out in your workbook. Make sure you share some of these numbers with us in that Facebook group so we could see where you are and give you some valuable feedback.
You know, one of the things I love about this tool, we actually use it at Vindy, is companies really struggle with, how do you back into your media budget? Like, how much should you be spending on advertising as a B2B company to produce the right leads for your business? This tool calculates that for you. All you have to do is input those first few cells and then boom, it spits out the answer. So do your homework. You'll get this as your homework assignment, and then you'll be able to use this in the workbook and lock it down as part of your lead funnel framework.
So day 2 homework is filling out that worksheet and making sure that you back into those numbers that Paul just talked about. And this is going to lock down your KPIs. Be sure and share that with us in the Facebook group so that we can help you get to where you need to go. Paul, tell us about the key takeaways from today.
Yeah, so we've covered a lot of information. We told you at the beginning of this to fasten your seatbelt. So here's kind of the key points that we made today. Failing to plan is planning to fail, and there's no reason for you to fail to plan at this point. We've walked you through exactly what you need to do to build that plan as part of phase 1. You now understand the difference between goals and KPIs. Goals is your destination. KPIs are going to tell you if you're heading in the right direction, and now we've given you the tools you need to start building your roadmap.
Tomorrow, for day 3, we're going to talk about knowing your audience. We're going to talk about the power of your story. We're going to talk about how to identify the ideal clients. We're going to talk about personas. And finally, we're going to talk about how to establish you as a guide, not the hero of your business.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that as a business, I'm not supposed to be the hero? The customer's supposed to be the hero?
That's right. And they're going to have to stay tuned for tomorrow, Paul.
Okay. See you tomorrow.